Good evening. I hereby announce that pursuant to Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in the notice which was sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Two River Times, and posted on the bulletin board in Township Hall, and filed in the Township Clerk's office on January 3rd, 2024. Mayor Impreviduto?
Here.
Mr. Foster?
Here.
Ms. LaMountain?
Here.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Here.
Mr. Romano?
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Wendy. If everyone can please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So, folks, as you've seen on the agenda, it's our long-awaited stormwater presentation to everybody. The way we're going to do this is the team from Colliers is going to, they have a dashboard up there. They're going to present the information, what they evaluated, what their recommendations are, and we'll talk at some point about the steps we're going to take to remediate many of the issues that we have. We are going to, as a governing body, ask questions directly to Colliers, and we also are going to invite the public to ask questions directly to the engineers as well that did the study. The one, I'd say, cautionary note is regarding the stormwater study or the one request I have is to please keep the questions specific to the study and the areas that were evaluated. There were 6 specific areas in town that are more inclined to flood than others, in addition to the entire infrastructure of the town. So, we just don't want to hit these guys with a bunch of random questions on things that they didn't specifically evaluate. So we're going to try to keep that as contained and as specific as possible. But that said, I want to thank you guys for coming. I appreciate the work you've done. This is, again, probably about 2 years in. I see Mr. Bucko. Good to see you, sir. With that said, we'll let you guys take it from here.
Thanks, Mayor. Bob Mullen, Senior Project Manager, Colliers Engineering and the Governmental Services Group. Thank you. So as the mayor said, we were brought on board here in the township to do the stormwater management study back in early 2022. The scope included 2 primary tasks. First was GIS mapping. The second was a hydrologic analysis of the stormwater management system. The GIS mapping phase was broken into 2 tasks. It was to map and scope out the stormwater management system as well as the sanitary sewer system, including all ancillary facilities. Obviously, we're here tonight to focus on the stormwater management side of the business. As you can imagine, the stormwater management system is a very large and complex system, made up a lot of different pieces. When I turn it over to Carly here, she'll get into much more detail on the GIS side, but you can see what's on the dashboard right now on the screen. The number of structures, the amount of pipes, inlets. There's a lot of moving parts to this system. Once the mapping was completed, we compiled the system data combined with a substantial amount of field time and working closely with the Township's Department of Public Works. We performed an analysis of the system to identify and scope recommendations for addressing those problem areas that the mayor mentioned. And that's where Naveen Valenzuela will come in. Hopefully she's here somewhere behind me. And she'll provide additional background on the details of our hydrologic and hydraulic study. So for now, I'm going to turn it over to Carly Dykeman, and she'll give us a quick overview of the GIS mapping efforts.
Hello, everyone. My name is Carly Dykeman. I am a GIS field coordinator at Colliers Engineering and Design. For those of you that don't know what GIS is or what it stands for, stands for Geographic Information Systems. And with that information, you still may not understand what exactly that means. It's basically modern day cartography, right? So I make maps. And one of the most important things that we do when we're making maps is making sure that it makes sense and that it looks presentable and that you can understand what exactly is going on here. And so one of the main things that I do at Colliers is I focus a lot on our field efforts. So that means in order to collect all of these assets, somebody had to walk around every single street of Holmdel. And one of those people was me. And I'm so happy I was able to do that. We found so many things. We used a GPS that had, that captures accuracy within 1/10 of an inch. So anytime, you could take something from this map and be able to find it, immediately. This makes things a lot easier for the DPW to be able to maintain. It allows them to identify, where there could be potential issues down the line. And it just allows people to have, more of an understanding of what exactly is going on. And outside of all of those reasons, we did this because all the way from the DEP level, they're becoming more stringent on their stormwater regulations. And part of that is the MS4 permit, and that's municipal stormwater. And one of the requirements on there is for every municipality in New Jersey to have their stormwater mapped digitally. Holmdel is one of the places that really made sure that everything was on the map, and I'm just very excited to show you. So from what we have here, I'm sure this doesn't look like anything. And so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna zoom in here, and I hope that this makes it a little more clear as to, what's going on. And so I zoomed in this area just because I'm very familiar with it. So what we have here, all of the squares are stormwater inlets connected by the gravity mains, which are represented by the lines with the arrows. They have pipes. Some of the things that the DEP, or the DPW rather, will be able to utilize this as, GIS as a tool is, we took these photos. And with these photos, they also have IDs. So not only is the DEP, or the DPW rather, have this information at hand, but they can also have now a robust naming convention and system tied to it. And so basically what you see here, every little ounce of conveyance, so I would consider this, one bit of conveyance, ends in an outfall. And all of these things together can show you kind of the bigger picture of what's happening with stormwater discharge. Yes, yep, exactly, sorry. And yes, so here we have an entire thing. So basically, we can start at the top over at this inlet here, and basically water will enter this inlet, and it will follow these arrows from inlet down to the next, so on and so forth. And, if you zoom in a whole lot, you can see, these are a little tighter together. And then ultimately, it will hit a manhole, one more inlet, and then it will hit the final outfall where the stormwater is discharged. And that's one of the outfalls. And from this, we have all of these assets all over town, which is incredibly important. We have some detention bases in here, which really help with the infiltration. And, the work that this is going to be able to, the visual that this is going to be able to provide for the DPW to maintain is invaluable. We found nearly 10,000 assets. I think we were sitting right at 9,200 assets altogether. So that includes everything on this dashboard. You have your inlets, catch basins, your stormwater manholes, outfalls, gravity mains, network structures, culverts, swales, all of it. And with this information, we were able to Naveen was able to do the things that she was able to do. So I'm just going to pass it over to Naveen.
Thank you. And Naveen, before you start, just to sort of break this up a little bit for public consumption, the first step in this process was the overall mapping of all of the infrastructure that the stormwater sort of flows through and into and out of. Is that
That's
That-
correct, yes.
That's correct.
So that's the whole, the whole point of mapping this is, one, to meet the DEP requirements, of course.
Right.
But what the DEP is looking for is to ensure that the flow and everything, that it's being managed accordingly. So you're seeing the total from the start to the very end and everything in between, where the stormwater travels, the size of the pipes, the material of the pipes, and the length from inlet to manhole, manhole to outfall. All of that information is one of the requirements from the DEP, but also just necessary to build out the entire system.
And so, thinking about this in steps, this mapping is obviously necessary for DEP regulations. This allows us to find areas within our infrastructure that are currently in distress and maybe find some easy fixes, which I think we've already begun. And then look for areas that are just no longer suitable, given the pipe size or things of that nature, for the amount of stormwater flowing through, and to actually ultimately improve the infrastructure. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That is, yes, that's absolutely correct. And that's definitely kind of with the data that we were able to collect, that is what Naveen was able to use and analyze further, using a bunch of other data sets to be able to get to her endpoint.
Perfect, and I appreciate that. And Naveen, I'm not sure exactly what you're going to sort of touch on and dive into, but I'm assuming we're going to touch upon the 6 major areas that we looked at in town that underwent, I think, a little bit of a deeper or more specific evaluation at some point during this discussion as well. Okay, that would be great. Thank you.
So can I, I mean, I need the plug.
Suspense is killing me.
Sorry. So while my computer, oh, here we go. Okay. So, thank you, Mayor and Township Committee, for having me here today. Oh, okay, I'll say that again. Thank you, Township Committee and Mayor, for having us here today. For those of you who don't know me, I am Naveen Valenzuela. I'm with Colliers Engineering and Design. I am a professional engineer, and I have extensive experience in stormwater management. I'm also a Holmdel resident, 24 Telegraph Hill Road. So needless to say, this project and this study was really important to me, and it is an honor for me to participate in it and be here today, as the goals and objectives of the study align with my interests in enhancing Holmdel and sustaining its stormwater management infrastructure.
And Naveen, if you don't mind, if you could speak up a bit, I'm seeing some folks struggling to hear.
Okay.
I know you're not as loud as me, but
Okay, is this better? Yes. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to start with a quick overview of what the stormwater management report entailed, and then I can go into details. So first, the data that was collected by Carly's group, that was taken and that was downloaded into the software, that we were able to create a baseline existing analysis to further study and come up with recommendations at areas that were identified by the township. So we had several meetings with the township initially when the GIS field investigations began, and 6 areas of interest were identified as areas that flooded frequently, or there was major erosion. And once the GIS data was collected and completed, we were able to begin our stormwater management study. And at that point, reviewing all that data, we realized that there are actually more locations, not just the 6 locations. And in speaking with the township, and specifically Victor, prior to his retirement, he was really instrumental in providing a lot of valued information from the residents that we were able to take and include in our study. So basically, the objectives of this study obviously is to enhance stormwater infrastructure in Holmdel, improve water quality, mitigate flooding and erosion. Before I get into everything, I just wanted to do an overview of the watersheds and streams in Holmdel, just so everyone's familiar. Basically, Holmdel is divided into, you know what, maybe I'll share a map for this. Be easier. So the stormwater, volume 1 of the stormwater report that's posted, at the very end, there is a map that includes all of the data that was collected. All the outfalls are labeled. There's a lot of good information on here that kind of goes with the report. So basically, Holmdel is divided into 2 watersheds. The northern part of Holmdel drains into the Raritan Bay, and it consists of Moheganson Creek, Lepetong Creek, Flat Creek, East Creek, Moharis Brook, and Wacac Creek. And then the lower part of Holmdel drains to Swimming River, and that's, let's see if I can remember this. Oh, it's freezing. But it's Willowbrook, Hop Brook, and not Swamp Brook, and that all drains into Swimming River. So there's like 2 major watersheds, and the highest point in Holmdel is basically right here. I don't know if you see my screen. So there are a lot of streams in Holmdel, a lot of wooded areas. Most of the outfalls are located within wooded areas and prone to debris and fallen tree limbs, and that's where a lot of the issues that we found were as a result of just accumulated debris clogging up the system, but I could show some examples of that later. So I don't know if I should stay here or go back to my PowerPoint. Yeah, let's do that. So our analysis and approach, there were like 3 methods that we used to analyze the existing conditions. The first method was if we found that an area was flooded, we did an upstream analysis, identifying the drainage area, all the impervious surface that contributes to the stormwater. We determined the peak runoff rates and compared it to the existing pipe system to determine if that pipe system needs to be upgraded to a larger size. And then another set of issues that we found while we were doing our site inspections are a lot of scouring and washout happening at the outfalls. And there are like a few reasons for this. The main reason is there are a lot of tree limbs and debris that fall into the streams and take up the storage or the passageway of, the flow of the stream, and therefore, when it rains a lot, the runoff just goes up, along the stream banks and creates a lot of erosion and washouts and compromising the outfalls and the drainage system. So in those cases, it wasn't the drainage system that was undersized. It's really the downstream erosion that's occurring. It's creating some issues. And then the least problematic areas that we found were actually just debris accumulation that just requires removal and maintenance. So basically the summary of improvements, the study that we completed, we recommended various improvements that included adding new drainage inlets, roadway reconstruction to lift up the road if there was a severe low point where water just accumulated. We found that was the issue. So elevating the road and replacing the culvert, increasing pipe sizes, or grading and stream cleaning. Bank stabilization is a major recommendation because in Holmdel there are a lot of outfalls, like I said, direct discharging onto streams with erosive conditions, and then debris removal. The report also includes detailed cost estimates of all of the 120 locations. And each location was evaluated and given a rating from 1 to 5, and that was based on the severity and impact, where level 1 has the least impact to the surroundings, and level 5 resulted in damage to the community or may potentially result in impacts to residential homes or endangerment to environments or to the public safety. So this was at the township's request. We identified each area and gave it a rating. That way it would aid the township in budgeting purposes and planning future improvements. Let's see. So this is just a quick overview. I can go into the report and go into more detail, but I just want to stop here and see if there are any questions.
Yeah, I think a little bit more detail we can certainly get into. I do want to just turn it over to the administrator for a moment. Mr. Administrator, obviously there's a number of recommendations and they're sort of tiered coming from Colliers. If I'm not mistaken, we've already begun or are about to begin remediating some of the areas regarding debris removal and things of that nature. Is that correct?
That's correct. And again, just by point of clarification, level 5 items, which are 6 in number, have been identified with an approximate cost of about $1.7 million. And those will require in most cases, individual permits, DEP permits, as well as what I would call major construction to either replace, repair, or upgrade existing facilities. At the lower end, the level 1s and 2s are primarily locations that have been identified that require enhanced maintenance. Debris removal that has accumulated over a period of time, the cleaning out and inspection of piping that has been enumerated in terms of the number of outfalls. Let's start at the beginning. The collection points, which are the inlets, the piping and the manholes, and then ultimately the outfalls, which have numbered about 350 throughout the township. So we have begun. Well, let me start by saying that this. In many respects, this report will serve and has already begun to serve as the starting point for the township's maintenance and management of our existing stormwater facilities. And to that end, work has already begun on the level 1 and level 2 identified areas that require really just a thorough cleaning and, in some cases, debris removal at the outfalls. So yes, we have begun that process for what I would call, in some respects, the low-lying fruit, the items that are easy in terms of simply sending crews out, either in-house crews or in some cases outside contractors that can perform the needed maintenance responsibilities.
Thank you. Naveen, if you wouldn't mind, and again, as Jay alluded to, there were 6 sort of major areas that were evaluated. If you can speak to those areas, I mean, we don't want to get too crazy in depth, but speak to the areas about, I'd say, the challenges, why you rated them the way you did, if they were part of the rating system, and what the recommendations are. I think there's a number of folks probably in the room that are in the areas those more severe areas that are of impact. So.
Sure. Okay, so I'll start with area number 1, which is Crawford's Corner Road. See if I have better pictures. Yeah, I don't have, those are the pictures that were taken, but everyone knows where that is. That's right, here we go. That's right by, down the road near us here, next to the municipal building. This area, it's pretty low. The road is pretty low there, but the problem is it can't be raised any higher because it's connected to a lot of existing conditions. The schools are right there, the fire department, the municipal complex, so we can't really raise this much higher. So The recommendation here would be to replace the pipe, and I'm gonna go to the plan. So the level 5 locations, we actually developed a recommendations plan, and I can share that too. Sorry. Here we go. So here I believe the existing pipe is a 33-inch. We evaluated the upstream area. A lot of the upstream areas were improved tremendously over the last few years. The PNC Arts Center, so that actually added, increased runoff significantly. So maybe, quite some time ago, like, I don't know, 10 years ago, this could have been adequately sized. But with all the, various development that occurred, it needs to be upsized to, we are recommending a 48-inch by 76-inch elliptical concrete pipe. The elliptical pipe works out nicely here because it's flatter and it can fit in under the road without having to raise up the road too much. And the reason why this is a level 5 is because the high school is down the road, and SATS is also down the road. So I actually witnessed being stuck for an hour and dropping off my kids late at the high school during a really bad storm in the morning. So when this area floods, the schools are affected. The fire department is right there, that could be affected. So that is the reason why we think this needs to be addressed sooner than later. Any questions on level 1 on this area? Okay.
Open it up to the
Okay.
committee and then the public.
Okay. Catbird Alley, let me just do pictures real quick. So I don't know if these pictures really serve any justice, because it actually looks a lot worse. So the stream along Catbird Alley is scouring and washing out severely. The outfall downstream of, across from Crawford's Corner Road is clogged up, and it's actually filled with debris and needs to be cleaned. The stream that traverses Bellworks need to be cleaned. So the reason why there's a lot of scouring and washout, because there's nowhere for the water to go, so it backs up and it takes up the storage within the stream. So again, the runoff climbs up the banks and scours in it with high velocities, and resulting in this severe washout. And it's actually, really needs, I believe Bellworks or Toll Brothers are responsible for cleaning the stream, but I won't get into that. But that really needs to be addressed as soon as possible. And I do have improvements planned for that, but I won't go through that if that's going to take up too much time. I can just go through the next one. The third, after evaluating this area, we just didn't feel like this was a level 5. I believe this was rated as a 3, because although it does look, it's in poor condition, it's not impacting anybody. It's behind somebody's backyard, and we felt like it's not endangering any of the surrounding areas, but still needs to be addressed.
And what area is this? Sorry, we did.
This is Valley Point Drive.
Okay.
It's an outfall in the rear of a backyard. 4 is Hayward Hills Drive. So I am going to share the map for this because it'll be easier. So basically, there is an intake head wall on 7 Hayward Hills Drive that's taking the runoff from the stream. It's about 130 acres of flow that's making a turn on the property, and during severe storms, the flow does reach, over top the culvert here and creates issues for that residence. We have a few recommendations here. Again, due to to improvements over time. This culvert may have been adequately sized at the time that it was constructed, but over the years, I mean, the DEP are constantly changing the stormwater standards. Every other year, they are more stringent. The last change was last year in July 17th, where now developments have to be designed for future rainfall. So we are recommending here that the downstream system be upgraded to 60-inch pipes to accommodate the increased rainfall and to alleviate flooding on this property. Number 5 is McCampbell Road. And so here is our recommended improvements plan for McCampbell Road. As you can tell, we included a profile here because it actually does paint a good picture of what's happening. The existing profile of the road is the road just dips down, and when there's a heavy storm, the water just ponds and just accumulates at this location. Looking at the existing topography, it is Monmouth County GIS, but it's pretty close to what's out there, but a survey would have to be conducted to confirm elevations. But our recommendation here is to elevate the road, which can be done without impacting the residents that are surrounding the area, and upsizing the pipe to alleviate the ponding that occurs and to have the stream flow as it should without impacting the road. And the reason why this is a level 5 is because the school is right down the road. And when this floods, all the residents are impacted and the schools are impacted. And then number 6 was Middle Road. Let me just go back. Okay, so just going to go back to the map that I had. Actually, just a quick summary of Middle Road. It's a county road, and it is within the flood hazard area with a known flood elevation, I believe, of 14 or 15. And the residents that is adjacent to the stream, I think their home is slightly higher than that. But there's not much we can do here as far as recommendations. We are recommending a berm adjacent to the stream. If not sure like what the complaints are, or if the actual road or traffic gets impacted. I haven't personally witnessed a storm here, and just based on the size of the culvert, we feel that it is adequately sized, and any improvements within this area would require major DEP permitting. It's an FHA area, and I don't think it would require like further study to make recommendations here, besides a landscape berm to prevent any flooding to go on the resident's property. And this was priority number 6.
Thank you, Naveen. Do we have any questions from the committee for Naveen and the team at Colliers? All right, so we're going to open it up to the public, folks, for some questions to the Colliers team. Like I said, let's just try to the extent we can, keep it to the information that was presented, the information in the report, and we'll sort of navigate as we go. Mr. Blumenthal, and then Mr. Yanella.
Ralph Blumenthal, 41 Stony Brook Road. Thank you for your presentation. As a member of the Environmental Commission, we've been working and following this all along, and getting facts, organized facts, and careful analysis is really extremely welcome. So we very much welcome this. And you didn't mention how many pages there are in the report, but there's an awful lot of work that's been done, and I certainly appreciate it. So thank you to all the people who were involved with this. One simple question in looking at the report, there's an Appendix A and an Appendix B, which it goes through all of the locations and it gives cost numbers. And the two sets of numbers aren't the same. And I didn't understand which set of numbers one should be. I think it's Appendix B is the bigger set of numbers, so it's probably what we ought to be looking at.
We'll let our friends from Colliers answer that.
Yes.
Okay, so Appendix A is basically a location summary that just summarizes, like, lists all the locations with the total cost.
But the cost numbers aren't the same as what's in B.
Okay.
That's what puzzled me.
Okay, so it's a little over 3 million here. 5.
We can take that offline. Fine.
Okay, but B is, there's no total in B. B is are just detailed cost estimates.
Yeah, but the individual items are more, they add up to more. Okay.
Yeah, maybe I'll look into that and get back to you.
Fine.
Everything is cross-referenced in an Excel spreadsheet, so I don't know how that could happen, but maybe.
Bob has my phone number and email address.
Okay.
Yeah. One question I'd like to throw to you folks. The total is a lot of money and a lot of work. Have you had any thoughts about how to potentially fund, especially the bigger items?
I'd say we've had thoughts but not conclusions.
Because I don't see it on the,
Yeah.
there is a capital budget bond issue on the agenda, and I don't see this on that. And some of the most critical items are bigger and not little bits of dollars.
Yeah, look, we know this is going to be a multi-year effort. We haven't taken the steps yet to sort of plot out how many years and what costs we can absorb over that time. I don't know, Jay or Bill, if you guys have any thoughts on that, but that's just sort of where I know we netted out to in our last conversation.
And part of it's also going to be ongoing, because the minor items are really an ongoing maintenance, because you do it once and you're not done.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, so look, this is, the first big step was getting the report and tackling, and I'd say the second step was tackling the items that we could tackle immediately to try to alleviate some of the pressure. Now the real work comes in, right?
Yes.
Which is the cost and the effort around the rest of these.
Yeah. And then I might just comment with regard to the Middle Road Bridge. And what's there is, that's been a complaint area for a long time. And the person who lives just on the north side of the bridge has been to the Environmental Commission countless times about what's going on. And we have somewhat confirmed some of this. And Rutgers also took a look at it as part of their study. They were looking at this, that the Middle Road Bridge may be too low. Just north of there and just north of Tetro's property, you come into Hazlitt, which is outside the scope of what you've been looking at. And there's been extensive indications that their stream north of there is clogged in Hazlitt. So it's going to take a two-town, at least, effort
Well, I
to
think-
try to clean that up. And if the water can't go anywhere, it backs up.
Well, and you're hitting on the right point, right, which is that this is a regional issue, right?
Absolutely.
Everything doesn't just stay isolated to Holmdel, and the water's flowing into and out of Middletown, Hazlitt, Holmdel, et cetera.
And the Environmental Commission has started to try to work that. We had one meeting earlier in the summer with some of the other representatives from the other environmental commissions, and we have a follow-up coming in October. But absolutely right. It's a regional thing, too. We all need to work together, because water doesn't look at town boundaries.
Correct.
So
Thank you.
thank you, and thank you all for what's been your report.
Thank you. Mr. Yanello?
You want to do duet? No, I'm kidding. Jay Yanello, 18 Ladwood Drive. I'd like a real unbiased answer on this, and very impressive. How does Holmdel rate on towns you've looked at over the past, let's say, 7, 8 years of your career, on a 0 to 10, 10 being in wonderful shape, all of this, and 0 being in the worst shape? Come on, just.
So I'm not just saying this, but Holmdel rates very high.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, because as resident, you know, there's a lot of bemoaning back there. We're sitting back there, and I'm not trying to be political here for present or past people. With some of the priorities that we've placed on in this town and have fought over the past 8 years, to see some of this, a lot of people are saying, what? And again, we're not in the trenches with you guys. We're not trying to throw dirt on anyone, and none of your jobs are easy. But what are we doing as a town if we're not maintaining some of these major bottlenecks and things? It's pretty disappointing. Again, it's easy for me to say that. It's easy for everyone to complain, but why are we at this state?
So I'm going to give you one quick answer, and then Jay, I think you could probably jump in a more informed position. I think part of what was done here was there were assets and structures discovered that I frankly think, I'm not sure we knew we had, Jay. And I think a lot of things get lost to history.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, a large part of this isn't ignoring everything. It's addressing and taking care of what we can, what we know exists, and doing the best we can with that. I think this did uncover, and Naveen and team, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do recall one of our meetings saying, you know, there's a couple of things we didn't even know that was there.
Correct.
Kind of, you know, so I think, you know, this was just, I think Ralph said it really well, which is we have facts now, we have a baseline to work off of, and we didn't really have that before. So I don't know, Jay, if you have Delaney, if you have additional comment on that.
Thank you, Mayor. No, I think that point is accurate, that certainly there were assets, and when we say assets, structures that we did not know existed. As was mentioned at the very onset of tonight's presentation, most of these drainage structures are located in wooded areas. Obviously, there are some areas where the road floods. We all know it. We've all seen it. And they are recurring issues. And frankly, they have, in many respects, those are the items that have received notice, and there have been attempts made to address them. But there's also the reality that some of these structures have not been inspected or maintained in an adequate manner for the past 20 years or more, as well as the fact that I think we've also, I think we can agree that the frequency of these high-intensity, short-duration storms are much more prevalent today than I think any of us saw, even as
I agree with
recently
that.
as 5 years
I agree
ago.
with that, yes.
And in many respects, what we're experiencing now are really, for lack of a better term, the canaries in the coal mine. We're looking at now just the tip of the iceberg of what will probably be even more flood areas that we identify. But there is no doubt that the stormwater system, the other reality here is that in most cases these structures were constructed 40, 50 years ago as the township grew, and we're now to the point where these structures have reached the end of their useful life, and they need to be replaced, upgraded, and maintained on a more regular basis. I should also, I'll take this opportunity to mention that as Naveen has identified some of the various culverts and roads, we have every combination of situation where some of these, much of our community are county roads, and the county has primary responsibility for the drainage systems associated with those roads. Likewise, we have many township roads where the county, they're county culverts that are, transporting the water from one side of the road to the other. So there is a huge amount of work here, both in terms of what the township will need to address specifically, as well as the coordination and consultation with other agencies. Also, as was mentioned, the drainage that's coming from the Garden State Art Center. I'm sorry, the PNC Art Center. That is definitely a significant impact to the one area that was identified, Crawford's Corner Road.
And that drainage is more severe now because they cleaned up their act? Is that what you said? The PNC drainage? They improved their drainage, so it's more volume downstream? I'm just curious.
Yeah, well, all the additional impervious area with improvements, parking lots,
Got it. Okay.
impervious, that increases runoff to the stream,
Yeah.
increases velocity and flow. So yes, that it's due to overdevelopment.
So because they developed it more, I thought they just
Right.
did some other modification. Okay.
Parking lots,
Got it.
mostly parking lots were
Yeah,
added.
I was at a concert there a week ago. You couldn't even stand on the lawn. It was
Yeah.
that crowded. I'm not an environmentalist, but you hit it right on the. We're getting drenching rains like we've never gotten before on a recurring basis. Real quickly, they've been popping sewers off recently. They did our block a week ago. Are they doing it on a priority basis, or because roads are getting paved? Like, how are you prioritizing which sewers get popped up and now? Because we were happy to see that.
You know, it was referenced earlier, the MS4 stormwater permit requirements that the township is now, well, we've always been subject to them, but those requirements at the state level through DEP regulations have changed and require more ongoing maintenance in terms of even the easy things, relatively easy things, street sweeping, as well as the cleaning of inlets and culverts and the piping right up to the outfall. In some cases, it's a matter of the priorities vary depending on other work that's being done. Obviously, if we're doing other work in the area, it doesn't make sense to not address these issues at the same time. But at this point, we're still in what I would really call the triage stage, addressing the combination of the easy things as well as the items that are going to require the investment of dollars, a determination of how we finance it, and the timeline to complete this. I mean, we are really looking at a minimum of, even if we were to pull the trigger today and completely fund $3.7 million, more than likely we're looking at, several years to address every item here.
Got it. This is a very impressive report. I hope we are going to seriously utilize it today and in the future and
We already
get
are.
our money's worth. Thank you.
No, we already are, and I think one macro note for everybody is, and because it was eye-opening to me on some of the draft reports earlier, this allows us to stop chasing the symptoms and go after the disease, right? So, many times, Jay, to your point, our public works folks are doing the best they can to remediate issues, but they don't know the source of the issue necessarily, right? So this gets us to root cause and can solve for the root cause as opposed to sort of chasing, the outcome of the issue. So,
Thank you.
yes, ma'am.
Francine Campus, 2 Country Squire Lane. I first want to say a very impressive report, and thank you to the Township Committee for doing this. I think it's really very worthwhile. My concern is, I'm listening, I heard references to major problems, and I hear Bell Works, Toll Brothers, PNC Center. I'm saying, why should the individual taxpayer be burdened with this large amount of money that we have to do to fix it? Shouldn't we be going to some of these, like the PNC Center, and say, hey, when you first came, guys, it wasn't all that impervious coverage, and we know all those parking lots is what's contributing to those pipes not being adequate enough for the drain off. Why should we bear the burden to enlarge those pipes? They should. They're doing business, they're having big concerts, they're making lots of money. I don't know why the individual taxpayer here in town should have to bear that burden, okay? And there was no way for us to know that even. Bell Works and Toll Brothers, I'm sure that development now is taxing some of the pipes in this town. And once again, we should be bearing the burden of that. So I implore you, grants, going to these people and saying, you've got to contribute something to this big bill that's coming our way. And the other thing is, let's keep this in mind when we're looking at big developments. You see how we didn't know down the road, 10, 15 years, what the town's going to be in trouble for. So let's keep that in mind in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Bill Little, 8 Coventry Square. I have a specific question about the McCampbell Road, since I live near there. I think the water goes under the road in 2 different places, about 50 yards apart. And for a while there, you have water going down both sides of the road. So does the plan call for just replacing the one culvert, right?
Yes.
But there's another one farther west, I think. At
This
any
one.
rate, well, that certainly needs attention. And in that whole low area there seems to be a favorite place for people to throw things out of their cars, because the side of the road is totally covered sometimes with beer cans and plastic bottles, and that doesn't help the water flow. So yeah, so is that just one? You're just replacing the one culvert?
Yeah, so as you can see here from the profile, I don't know if you're able to see that on the screen, but the existing, this is where the road dips, and this is the location. I personally was not out there in the middle of the storm. I did not witness it personally, but based on DPW and reports from the neighbors, this is the location. But again, this report is not final. It's not a static report. It's always going to change, with future. So we were not aware of any other flooding along McCampbell, but we'll take a look at that. We can take a look at
Okay.
that. Where is the location? Is it here?
I'm just saying there's water flowing on both sides of the road for about 50 yards there.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're
yeah.
saying. That's exactly what we found, is that the water ponds on both sides of the road and inundates this whole area.
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly what we found. So there isn't another location then, just there.
Okay.
Yeah, and our recommendation, really, this is an easy fix, to be honest. Elevate the road and increase that diameter of the culvert to allow, so it's not bottlenecking and shouldn't really, result in any impacts to the surrounding residents, because it's the same drainage area. We're not increasing runoff. We're just alleviating that ponding.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Janet Nisi, 7 Country Squire Lane. This is just a question I have, and I may not be up to date, but for several years I would hear that Palmer Square had flooding all the time. It was always in the newspaper, and all the residents were complaining. When I was listening to those levels and the areas, I didn't hear anything about Palmer Square. Was that mitigated completely, or is that a big problem?
Palmer Square, is that in that DFA range you were talking about, that flood zone area along with Middle Road?
Where is Palmer Square? Is that up here?
It's off 35.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's get that map to use.
Do you want to share?
Does anyone know a cross street?
That this is too much to dig into now, we can take it offline. It's okay. All right, we'll have to take that one offline. Thank you for the question. We'll get an answer. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Janet Jackal, 31 Stony Brook. I appreciate, Mr. Mayor, what you said about not simply trying to find remediation or cures, but in fact preventing the disease. And one person has already mentioned the problem of increasing impervious coverage, which certainly leads to these kinds of problems. Another is use of the land, especially removal of large numbers of trees, because that is also preventing the absorption of the water. And I'm hoping that we can find ways of dealing with both of these as we go forward, so that we are not going to be facing the same problem in 10 years where we say, well, we still got more water coming, let's make it bigger. I think we can help ourselves a great deal there.
Thank you. Yes, sir. I'm talking to you.
Wes Fagan, 50 Chestnut Ridge Road. 3 different sort of items. First, regarding detention basins. You mentioned detention basins. I know this was part of the study, and you also mentioned that it helps with infiltration. The progression of detention basins, I think they're a relatively new thing, right? In new developments, they're responsible to maintain or control the water that's come off of that development. So I want to talk specifically about Sage Street, which has like a vintage 2000, year 2000 detention basin. You might be familiar with that right at the curve there. And the way it's structured is that all of the storm drains lead into this detention basin. The inlet of the detention basin is obviously concrete, and then throughout you have concrete leaders, concrete almost half pipes that channel the water from the inlet to the outlet. And even after 1, 2, or 3 inches of rain, either that day or the next day, there's no water in the detention basin. The detention basin has sides are like 4 feet high, yet there's no detention going on. So I'm not sure if that's by the way, I think the new detention basins they call bioretention basins now. So I didn't know if that's still the thing that they're doing. It would seem to me that you wouldn't have those, you would have one of two things. Either you don't have those concrete things in the entire structure going from start to finish, or you would somehow block the exit so that the water can't escape it because there's no infiltration going on. And it's causing the velocity of water during heavy rains to just come in and go right back out again.
Right. So, so the detention basin on Sage, that's strictly a detention basin. That's a low flow channel. It is supposed to empty out within 36 hours. It's not an infiltration basin. The regulations today, that wouldn't even, you know, the regulations today dictate that green infrastructure is implemented with major developments. So that basin was constructed prior to 2006, and the regulations were a lot different back then.
So are you saying if that was done today, it would not look like that? Is that what you're saying?
Correct. It
Okay.
would look more like a bioretention, green infrastructure. So the rules now require that major developments implement small scale BMPs, best management practices, to mitigate water quality and provide groundwater recharge. Now it's heavily required. At the time to dry, that is a dry detention basin. It is supposed to behave in that manner.
So I guess a general question would say, can we look at some of the detention basins and see about quote unquote storing water there for release on a time basis rather than as fast as it comes in, it goes out, because it's really not meeting the concept of what you would think a detention basin would be. The second one is the consequence of silt and sedimentation with two different situations close by. One is at 12 Eastbrook, which is a single lot purchased by a developer. It's a steep slope. It was completely stripped of all its vegetation. There's no black fencing around it. My understanding is the town doesn't have jurisdiction because no building permit was requested for it. So it's just an empty lot, which used to be completely wooded. Now it's completely mud. That silt has come down into the street, completely covering the curb and washing down into the drains. Nothing's going on with the lot. And the second one is Bethany Road. If you can believe it's called Woodland Estates. So all the trees were taken out. The topsoil was removed, piled up. The place was regraded, and now nothing's going on at all. There hasn't been activity there for probably 2 or 3 months. And the third one regarding garbage and litter and plastics. If part of this is the inlet drains, I think we have about 4 different styles of grates that cover where the water goes in. So it's the old style with a giant place there for stuff to go in, plastic, wood. I've seen landscapers put their stuff down there as well, to all the way to the new style. It says drain to waterways, and it's got real small inlets. So hopefully that's part of our attention to upgrade some of those inlets, especially at low points in the system. And lastly, somebody asked about Palmer Square. I've looked at that, and that feeds into Middle Road after 1, 2, and 3 inches of road. So I don't know if Palmer Square is getting water, but that area behind Palmer Square all the way up to Middle Road is like a delta. It's like something in Mississippi. And at 3 inches of rain, the water cannot go under the bridge fast enough. So that's when the water goes onto the street, because it kind of overcomes the banks, and that's a real problem. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Wes. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Hello. Peter Maneri, 59 Bethany Road. I have no expertise in any of this at all. I'm just commenting. One is, I think there was some maybe extensive work across Capra Alley, but I'm not sure, back a couple of months ago, Jay. So I don't know if that was in your report, you know, before or not, but there was some work done with some heavy rock and wire mesh and the same. That's one. Number two is, you know, I know we have a lot of waterways in Holmdel, and going forward, there's obvious problems. Would it make sense or be feasible to go forward and clean the streams the right way? Maybe do a mile, 2 miles, just bid that out, so we're not bidding out 3 million, 2 million, 5 million, bid out X, see what it does, time, because there's no material really. It's not brick and mortar. So you got 6 phases, do 1 phase, do 2 phase, clean those streams. Look at it in 6 months, you have it all mapped out, instead of, you know, awarding a bid for 3 or 4 million, and then we know what you're looking at, and then focus on some real problem areas. McCampbell Road's been a problem. Bethany Road's been a problem. The north side of Bethany and Hazlitt's been a problem when that dammed up. And then you could start looking at those structures, come back in 6 months, 7 months. You have all the time, your maps, and look at it, see how all the conveyance is going, and go forward.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Going once, going twice? All right. Thank you, everybody from Collier's team. Really appreciate all the work you've done. It's a very thorough report. Thank you, everybody, for your interest and the questions that you gave. You know, we'll keep you posted as things progress and as we look to remediate the issues, as you mentioned earlier, in stages over a period of time. So, guys, thank you so much, and you are free to go.
Thank you.
So we can, all right, folks, we're gonna get this thing moving, hopefully. Move on to public comment for agenda items only. Public comment for agenda items only, yes, sir.
R.G. Malonis, 2 Winding Brook Way, Holmdel, New Jersey. My comments are with respect to the Vonage items on the agenda. I do many things around town, but one of them is I'm on the board of Citizens for Informed Land Use. So what I brought with me is the petition that we have put out, which captures our position on many things related to this. And I will read it. It has 566 signatures already, so people are responding to it. We, the undersigned residents of Holmdel, New Jersey, and neighboring towns, oppose high-density residential development at 23 Main Street, formerly the site of Vonage, located on Holmdel Road and Route 520. Plans presented by CHA Propco LLC depict 300 units of tightly packed senior housing, including the renovation of the existing structure, 50 townhomes, and 2 new 3-story buildings. Residents have rightly voiced concern regarding the demand for and feasibility of additional senior housing and the erosion of Holmdel's small town appeal, the potential contamination of our drinking water, the impacts of a potential pilot program on our schools, increased traffic congestion, and added strain on emergency services and healthcare facilities. Holmdel must send a message to developers that heavily investing in properties not currently zoned for their design purpose is unwise. Our elected officials and governing boards have a duty to honor the commitment made decades ago to protect Holmdel's Category 1 streams and thus our drinking water by only permitting appropriate low-density development in southern Holmdel. The Category 1 designation provides critical protection against water quality degradation by preserving fragile ecological resources and discouraging development that could endanger or destroy our drinking water supply. The proposed project is not consistent with Holmdel's master plan, New Jersey State Planning Area Guidelines, or the recommendations of the Ad hoc Redevelopment and Economic Development Committee, and would have dangerous long-term ramifications in terms of precedent. We urge the Holmdel Township Committee and Holmdel Zoning Board and Planning Boards to refuse to rezone 23 Main Street for high development housing. Thank you for your support and supporting Holmdel's long-standing commitment to thoughtful, sustainable land use.
Sure, you can stay up. I have a couple questions for you if you don't mind.
Excuse me?
I have a couple questions for you if you don't mind. If we
Okay,
can sort
go
of talk
ahead.
it out for a minute. And I'm not going to get into supporting this development or not. We're going to let the process play out and see where it goes. When you talk about things like increasing in traffic, increasing from what? I guess would be my question. When you talk about things like issues with the drinking water, for example, when we're going to reduce impervious coverage by 20%, how does that reduction actually degrade the drinking water, I guess would be another question I have. If not this development, then what? What would you propose? And what would happen if we didn't have this property designated by the end of the year? Are you familiar with what might take place? Those are the types of questions that I have to counter with, because there's a lot of sort of incendiary verbiage in there that doesn't necessarily state with a factual basis why these things may happen. And I think it gets people a little bit riled up when maybe, we need to let a process play out. I'll also point out, by the way, the Citizens for Reform Land Use have let other properties play out all the way through zoning board before they offered an opinion on it. And this one, not so much. And the property I'm thinking of in particular was pure farmland that was going to have development on it, as opposed to a property that has an existing structure already and is going to be used in some way, shape, or form. So just if you can inform me more of your perspective on that and sort of the why and how behind it would be helpful.
You threw a lot of questions in there. Could I try to
Well,
answer
hit me with
some
a
of
bunch
them?
on the
I've forgotten the first one already.
So
but,
let's start with this, right? You talked about an
but the thing
increase
is
in
about
traffic.
traffic. We remember traffic when it was Prudential. There's substantial traffic. The traffic will increase.
Well, hold on.
It's
No. Hold
undeniable.
on. Let's stop
now,
there
if it
for a
was
second.
residential
Wait. Let me just pause you for a minute.
Yeah.
Prudential had 2,000 people in that facility. Okay, we're going to have ballpark between residents and workers about 550. How is that? How could that be an increase in traffic?
Are all those residential units going to be singles?
I think they averaged 1.57 per was the
So
average
it's
that they
gonna
laid
be
out.
a little higher, right?
No,
And-
that's the average.
And the other thing is you had those 1,700 in the Prudential building between 9 and 5. You're going to have
Exactly.
a smaller number
so
of people.
2,000 people at 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Massive chokehold on the town, right? Major choke point. 500-ish people. So a quarter, right, of that population, but dispersed over the course of the day, isn't an increase in traffic.
They're still going to have the same influence on you. You were talking about the septic system.
Wait. You got to take a step back. Did we cover the traffic part? There's less people, less cars, not congested during certain times of day. It's difficult for me to believe that.
Nobody.
Well, but you can't compare it to right now.
Right.
That thing's got to be something. right?
Okay.
The-
And
it's-
even when Vonage was there was very few people because it was all computers. Computers don't drive cars.
there were 1,700 people there with Vonage, 15 to 1,700.
So,
So
I mean,
I just wanna make sure we get the
respect
facts out. No, listen, I'm
the
not-
traffic estimates, but the thing is the place is zoned. The area is zoned for housing. The area is zoned for either industrial or housing.
Okay.
Housing, 1 acre lots, 2 acre lots.
Sir, it is, let me just take a step
That
back
would
for a
be
second.
more in keeping with what's in
You are-
the area than what's the.
I
being
respect
planned.
your opinion. What I want to make sure that we can align on are the actual facts and potential implications, right? So the one area you had brought up was traffic. Based on the numbers alone, I don't believe that to be a factual statement. That's one, okay? Number two, if you talk about water and runoff, and I talk about the reduction of impervious coverage, I think that's a difficult statement to make, right? All of South Holmdel is an environmentally sensitive area, by the way, right? We know that, and we're keenly aware of it. So there are things like that, and you talk about sewers and sewage and the whole thing. That's a critical part of this whole thing is the packing plant. And if that can't sustain what's going to happen there, then we got a problem, and we're keenly aware of that as well. So understood there, impact to infrastructure and fire and EMS and the whole thing. There's 5 acres that are going to be donated to the township for fire and EMS on Main Street in South Holmdel. So I just want to make sure we can align on facts. So we've talked traffic, you've mentioned water, right? You've mentioned, and then you're sort of speaking about just hold them to the zoning, right? If we hold them to, and you mentioned impact on schools of a pilot program, right? Well, if we hold them to the zoning, there's nothing, right? And so the tax base will decline even further, dramatically impacting the schools, dramatically impacting revenues for the schools, right? So my only point is everyone's entitled to their opinion. You guys are taxpayers, and I would never tell you to think differently. But I think we need to be very careful about how we present opinions and not present them as facts. And I think that can be unintentionally disingenuous. I'm sure I'm sure you're an honest guy. I'm not saying this was the intent, right? But it can be disingenuous when you present things that way. So I'll talk all day long about, what this thing is, what it could be, maybe what it should have been, right? There's a lot to consider, and timelines can be pretty tight on certain things as well. But I just want to make sure we're coming from the same place here, right? When you say potentially this,
we can get
where does that
together
come-
and sit down and talk about.
No, but I think you guys have made this a very public thing, so let's do it in
Yeah.
public.
I just spoke what I thought.
But you didn't provide facts. You
You
provided
didn't provide
opinion.
facts either.
No, I'm asking you. You talked about water being an
All
issue.
all you did
Explain-
was
no,
argue with
No,
me.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm asking you a question. How does a 20% reduction in impervious coverage provide more risk to the drinking water?
It doesn't.
Okay.
I'd have no problem with the sewage treatment plant there. The issue is what happens when it fails.
What happened when it failed with Prudential or Vonage? It's the same plant. When there's been a structure there for 60 years, 50 years. Prudential was there. It's the same plant. It's the same packing plant. Now, I'm sure it needs to be
And it's
upgraded
getting
and
old.
improved. I'm sure it needs to be.
It's
And
getting
again, I said
old.
earlier, I'm sure it needs to be upgraded and improved. You're saying what happens if it failed? If it fails, what would have happened if it failed with Vonage or Prudential? And I don't know the answer, by the way, to be
Well,
very
the thing
clear.
is, it's getting older. I was just-
Sure,
right?
sure. And
Everything
listen,
gets
these guys
older.
are going to be held to very strict regulations on this.
You don't. What is that? What is the lifetime of that system?
That's for our engineers. Bob, do you have any idea on that system? I don't want to call you on the
I
spot.
do not.
Okay.
I do not know the lifespan of a system like that. Obviously, it has not been in top use over the last several years or decade. But that'll all be part of whatever permits be required to get that thing started back up for whatever development may take over that property in the future.
Okay. So there's going to be strict regulations we have to
we're,
follow. and we'll
on,
do it.
in,
Yeah.
we're in uncharted waters with the lifespan of that thing, right? I mean, let's face it.
Sure, yeah.
There aren't that many. There aren't any packaged plants around that are that old.
Well, Vonage probably, not Vonage. Beltworks probably is.
1971, 1977.
Yeah. So
That's part of the process that
Right.
this will have to go
Right.
through and get approved.
Okay.
So-
No, I'm just responding to.
Yeah, no, no. Like I said, let's have it.
to
Everybody's
Rocco's
here.
questions
Yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah. Look, I don't want you to think I'm not angry. I'm not trying to be aggressive. It's not my intention, right? But there's a lot flying around, and everybody's here, so let's have the conversation, right? That's really where I'm at. And I get concerned
We
when
all-
people take opinion as fact, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Rocco, we're all trying to do the best for Holmdel.
Agree,
okay?
100%.
We're all trying to do the best for Holmdel.
Yes.
And we have maybe varying visions, right?
Absolutely.
So I'm not impugning.
Yeah. And I don't mean to be
you in
defensive,
any
by the way,
way,
but I want to make sure
right?
that we get this all out, right?
But we'll work together with the facts.
Yeah, listen, that's all I ask is to look at the facts on the table, address whatever concerns you have against the facts on the table, and then we can get to something, right? As opposed to.
We have been, we've been mentioning them.
Well, you've mentioned, but again, you haven't, in my estimation, based those opinions on fact. You've based their opinions, and they're being presented as fact. And that's where things get dicey, right? It really is. And I would also argue, and again, we'll see how this plays out. Who knows what's going to happen, right? To be very clear. But there are other times in what I would consider to be sensitive areas where the Citizens for Informed Land Use waited until the process was completed before they even thought to utter a response or perspective.
We appreciate that.
Yeah.
We appreciate the openness, and we appreciate especially the opportunity to provide input.
Yeah. So I just, listen,
Okay.
we value
And-
everybody's
and-
input.
And
But I just want
you-
consistency too. you know.
Huh?
But consistency would be helpful too, and how things are
we
viewed.
had been consistent. Thank you.
Situationally. Thank you. All right. Yes, ma'am, and then Mr. Trisquita.
Hi, Janet Nisi, 7 Country Squire Lane. So I live in the development right off of Route 520 and Candlelight, which is right next to the Exxon station by Holmdel Road. So it's very close to where the Vonage property is very close to where I live. I think you're not comparing. I think we need to compare the traffic that was at Prudential and the traffic that was at Vonage was before the pandemic, way before the pandemic, and you may have noticed that a lot more people have moved into Monmouth County, not only Holmdel, but all over the county.
Yes.
As evidenced by Route 35, if you ever try and go north-south on 35, it's become ridiculous. Well, Route 520, I suggest you go there anywhere from like 3 to 5.
I'm there all the
It
time. I
is-
live in South
I
Holmdel.
cannot make a left turn out of my development, and that's with the existing traffic. I always was able to make a left turn when Vonage was there and when Prudential was there. So the traffic is really comparing it to what's there now, not what it was like with Vonage, because we expect something's going to be there. That's just one. You mentioned traffic, and to me, I think you really have to do the study,
Correct.
taking today into account.
Absolutely.
The second thing was, I was looking at the picture of that was. It was the proposed concept plan,
Okay.
and they have these 3-story buildings.
There's two, one behind the main building and one on the northern part of the
they
property,
said-
correct?
I guess I had heard somewhere in the papers or something that they were going to be well hidden. And at least when I look at this concept plan, there's one of them that looks like you can see it straight from Holmdel Road, like it's a direct line of sight. And I thought I heard it was going to be behind lots of landscaping.
There
and
should be
stuff.
more buffers and stuff along Holmdel
So-
Road than what exists now.
Okay, so
That
the
should
picture of the concept plan
Yeah.
doesn't really
Reflect-
show the landscaping, right? I
Yeah.
mean, they do show trees, but that's not what really is going to go
It's just
in.
concept, and part of the redevelopment process allows us to dictate maybe more stringent terms in that regard, if we were going to go in that direction. The other question I would have for you, and again, I'm not saying this to challenge, I'm not being defensive, so please understand where I'm coming from on this, and I understand your point about traffic. I've noticed it as well. If we were to adhere to the current use, and magically, because it would be magic, to be very frank, someone wanted to move into that building that has a capacity for 2,000 people, that's not going to help traffic either, right? That's going to be even more problematic. Is it fair to say?
right.
The only answer is it's nothing, and which is a problem.
Well, a lot lot of people do work from home these days, which wasn't the case back then.
Well, exactly, which is why it's not,
Right,
which is
why
why
it's
it's a
really
problem, right? Yeah.
Right.
So that, I just, that's
Okay.
the kind of thing we have to think about, right? We all agree,
Yeah.
that,
Oh, yeah, the traffic, the traffic is bad,
Yeah.
so don't underestimate it.
understood. Mr. Chiquita, then Mr. Yanella.
Patrick Trisquita, 56 Line Road. I'd like to speak on two items, the Vonage action item as well as the eminent domain acquisition of Lot 49. I guess that's Potter's Field. First, my Vonage, it's really a comment. I've been in Holmdel for 41 years. When I came to Holmdel, Prudential was the second largest employer in the township. The first being Bell Labs. 2,000 people worked there every day. Okay, it was a source of high traffic. I'd have to stand in line at Dom's Deli to get a sandwich.
Dom's Deli, God.
From
Yeah.
that long ago. Okay. It's a 350,000 square foot office building that's completely obsolete. No corporation is going to come in and put 2,000 people doing office work like Prudential did. At that time, every policy Prudential wrote, Holmdel would get a revenue stream from that, and they poured in millions of dollars into the Holmdel economy back then. It is now sitting there vacant, white elephant. It's a building, 350,000 square feet. Nobody's going to come around and rent it and use it as the zoning is now as an office place. It had a parking lot for 2,000, 3,000 cars. Okay, again, 1,500. Okay, it had a large parking lot. Okay, so for Holmdel, we need to come up with a better use than it is now. Okay, it's a vacant lot. It's an eyesore. We could come up with a better use. Is the plan that's put out now needs to be looked at seriously, but it has to be a better use and more revenue to Holmdel. Revenue both to, if it's a pilot program, both to the municipality as well as the school district. So it needs to be looked at. This is the first step, making a resolution to redevelop it, and I strongly support that.
Thank you.
The next thing is the ordinance to look like eminent domain acquisition of lots 4902. That's a pleasant surprise. My question is, that was approved to be a dimension center by United Methodist Church. Could you just tell me what happened? How did the switch come from a dementia place to a eminent domain acquisition for Parksville? I think it's a great idea.
I actually can't say anything about it, to be honest with you. I can't. I'll talk to my counselor here.
Just
but,
like we dealt with on Crawford Hill, a condemnation is, potential litigation. So I would definitely advise the committee not to comment. But
I can say thank you, but that's
Okay,
it.
well, in the case of Crawford Hill, it was a friendly acquisition. Could you say whether it's a friendly acquisition or
I can say that
adversarial?
a prerequisite to pursuing a condemnation is good faith negotiations, and that's exactly what this authorizes, is the township's initiation of those good faith negotiations with the property owner for the acquisition.
Okay, thank you.
Let me get Francine, then the young lady in front of her, then Mr. Blumenthal, then Jay.
Thank you very much. Number one, what I'll say is about Prudential. Oh, Francine Campus, 2 Country Squire Lane. I know something has to go there. So, yep, your actions to change the zoning on it or get rid of the zoning on it, I understand that. My concern is, it seems like all the development in Monmouth County, nobody builds anything small. It's like they're building cities in the middle of our suburbs. Why does it always have to be a monstrous project? Why does it have to be 300 homes, a skilled nursing facility, then assisted living there? That is of concern to me, not only because I live near there, but for the town. Okay, as far as drinking water, the only thing I'm going to say is I remember in July I was asked not to water my lawn because there's a shortage of water for all of Monmouth County. Now we go in there, we've got more people using up the water supply for all of Monmouth County, not only Holmdel. The sewage treatment thing there is old.
Yep.
Hasn't been used. We have no idea if that's going to work with that place. And then are we going to be, and I hate to keep bringing up Colts Neck Manor, which has changed their name, but we approve something and then we've got the developer saying, we've got this great experimental system to do sewage treatment, and we're not happy with it. So, and that's not fact. This is just my own thing that I'm
Sure.
afraid of.
Yeah.
Okay, as far as impervious coverage, when Vonage or Prudential was there weren't all those other housing developments. Holmdel Road was all forest with trees absorbing water. Across the street by Casola Farms and stuff, that's a new development. That was not there. So I am concerned, even though we're getting rid of 20% impervious coverage, we are still putting buildings there, and I'm concerned about the stormwater management. After hearing this report here, I don't know, is the pipes there gonna be big enough for what's gonna happen? They mentioned in the plan they were gonna have a detention basin. What is that gonna look like? Is it gonna be a lake in the middle of the property?
Right.
Or where is the water gonna go? I certainly don't wanna pump any more water than I do, and my sump pump runs all the time.
Mine too.
Okay, and traffic concerning that. I lived there when Prudential was there, and I think I mentioned in the previous township meeting. Back then, people came in at 8:30 in the morning, so you got the bad traffic at 8:30. They stayed in the building. They had cafeteria, gyms, and everything. The people didn't leave. 5:30, we had the traffic again. But the rest of the day, we were in peace, except if you want to get a sandwich at Tom's Deli. But now that place with 300 homes, assisted living and skilled nursing, you not only have the people there going in and out all day, you have people coming to visit, you have workers that are going to be coming there. So I am concerned about the traffic that's going to happen there. So that's, and I'm not, I think it's, in concept, it's a wonderful project. It's just too big.
Look, it's a fair point, and I value your perspective, Francine. You know that. I think, these are the things that get worked out as we go through rigorous traffic studies and environmental studies and making sure these folks meet the qualifications they need to meet in order for it to go forward anyway. Like, this is going to be a hell of an undertaking.
Yes.
It is.
And as I said, I know it's not something easy. And, the south of Holmdel, we're going to put up towers now? I mean, really? I don't think that's with the master plan.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Regina Groisberg, 15 Main Street. My husband and I own that building right next to Vonage.
Oh, okay.
And I did a lot of research on it because it's going to affect us probably the most immediately at least. And I landed on the fact that it's probably the best option because all the other options that were floating around, like a college campus or private residences or low-income housing, or even if a miracle happened and a business came and rented that whole space, would be way worse, and the residents of Holmdel would actually be correct in all their assumptions. The traffic would be more, it would utilize our schools, and we would get less taxes. So I understand the knee-jerk reaction to development here. We all moved here for a reason. And there's a knee-jerk reaction to hearing that there will be a development. The land exists, the building is there, it will be developed. Business is business, money is money. And there needs to be huge developments to pay for that maintenance. And I far prefer it to be elderly people who do stay in their homes or nurses that are coming in for a 12-hour shift, and the cafeterias will remain there. We toured Vonage. We looked at it for our business. It is immense. Aside from a hospital or a campus, I can't imagine who post-2020, post-COVID, business has changed. nobody's renting such large offices anymore, or certainly not buying them. It is a horrible business decision for any business. And I'm happy with the idea of it being this option. Sure, would it be great if it was just a big park for us? Yeah, but that's not the reality of the situation. So as the owners of the immediate property there, that sewage plant is immediately behind our parking lot. We will be affected certainly in a negative way because this is construction that will take years. It is noise pollution, it is dust, and etc. And that's just the reality of having a business next to another business. You know, it's like when we lived in New York many moons ago, people would complain that you have construction next door or in an apartment next door. Well, you bought the apartment, you got to live with it. So for us, probably the biggest thing is for there to be township involvement in the containment of the pollution during the construction. You know, for that to be not an eyesore, not a pollutant, not a constant noise. You know, for if the township gets involved in that, we would appreciate it. I'm sure all the neighbors would appreciate it. For the roads in front, you know, the 520 not to be, you know, full of debris and dirt. But in terms of traffic, everybody keeps talking about traffic, and my knee-jerk reaction was like, yeah, it's gonna be so much more traffic, it's gonna be so much harder for our employees, da-da-da. But really, no, not. You know, it's not the worst traffic option. All the other options, and certainly I agree with you, Mr. Mayor, that if we do not make that decision, the zoning decision, ASAP, the alternative of low-income housing is the worst-case scenario. The amount of families with children that would move in there would turn our very elite schools to very low-grade schools. Let's call it that way. We cannot build more schools. The classrooms are full. I have little children, so this is what concerns me. And our schools are very populated, as is. If that space is with private residents, it will severely impact our town in a negative way. Taxes, negative. Pollution, negative. Groundwater, negative. You know, ambulances and everything else. People say, oh, it's going to use our ambulances. Well, they're donating it. They've dotted their I's and crossed their T's. I have no affiliation with them. I have not met with them. I do not know them, but I'm just a logical businesswoman, and it just works for a town.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. I think Ralph and then Jay.
Ralph Blumenthal, 41 Stony Brook Road. Different question with regard to Vonage. You have on the agenda Resolution 209, awarding a professional services contract for a special redevelopment planner. The backup material provided no explanation. It provided no name. It didn't say who you're hiring to do what or how much you're going to pay. I think, don't you have to approve all of those other items for this resolution to hold water?
We reviewed, we reviewed in executive session the options available to us. We're making a change because we know that this needs a dedicated resource, number one. We need someone that can operate with the gravity and magnitude of the project and be solely focused on that. So that's the reason for the change, number one. Number two, we met in the executive session, we discussed the respondents to the RFP. I'd personally spoken to some of them myself. We had certain criteria we wanted them to meet just internally. And the person we selected and the firm we selected met the criteria and also came in, coincidentally, by the way, at the lowest bid for the RFP. And it was Kyle and McManus? Kyle and McManus is the firm that we're going to be going with.
147 an hour.
Yeah. And their representative, the person that we're going to move forward with, has also been working with us. Can I mention the other project? It's in litigation a little bit. Have been working with us on another project that is pending litigation. So we have familiarity with her work, and again, she met the criteria we were looking for.
Okay, thank you for that. The other one was with regard to the Potter Farm resolutions. Was chair of the zoning board for most of the hearings that go through that, and I knew the board did approve Enclave name change dementia center, but that then went into litigation. And my understanding, well, this a group of nearby, not quite adjacent residents were one of the group, and then Middletown also joined in. And my understanding is that Middletown got kicked out of that. There was a hearing on the main complaint from the residents on July 26th, and the judge ruled against that, so that the judicial actions against the zoning board approval have now been tossed out, although as with all judicial, there is still an appeal window, which has not run out yet. So, although informally I have heard that, you know, the Methodists may have been changing their mind about what they were doing, but that gets at something that I think Mike doesn't want to talk about. But I'll ask a related question, though. If acquired, what would one do with that property? In order, if you want to acquire it, you have to have some reason or use in mind. It is not flat. You could barely put a soccer field there. It's not obvious that it makes sense as a park. Or what would you, in your going ahead with this, what is your vision of what would happen to that property?
I think all we can say is what's in the resolution, which is we're taking the steps to preserve it for open space and recreation. That's the most I can offer up, you know, given the situation. Sorry.
Well, just to be clear, the only action tonight is authorizing negotiations. If there's a formal action to go ahead and condemn, there will be a more formal ordinance that actually is being listed by title tonight, and if required, would then be published, and you would have a public hearing on it.
Raising the question about spending a whole bunch of taxpayer money. So that if you spend this, assuming you can find it somewhere, and you've already indicated that the budget's going to be tight this year, what are you going to do with it?
Yeah. We'll address it as time goes on. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward thing, and we're just making sure that people are aware of the actions we're taking, and we can't speak beyond what's in the resolution. Jay.
Jay Yanello, 18 Ladwood Drive. I'm pretty in awe at your logic and thinking, because it was like she was reading my iCloud notes here. I am a CELU member. I'm very, very fond of these people. They're some of the greatest people in town. They have the best intentions. I am one of, if not well known, the staunchest defender of South Holmdel. I've spent, not hundreds, you can ask my family, thousands, those are real numbers, thousands of hours defending South Holmdel over the past 10 years. I'm also in an odd position on the ad hoc committee that is assessing bondage. So with all that said, everyone reiterating your points as if you were reading my notes, we really have to keep in mind the other options there. And just real quickly, I don't know if I can say this, but I'm going to. You know, a distribution center could go there. A storage facility, and I didn't realize this, Amazon sellers store tons of stuff at storage facilities. So it's not just mom and pops moving their house stuff in. You would have build buses and everyone coming in all day long with that. A data center, I kind of like the data center, but what would that do to our already horrible power quality in this town? We have, and let me not get on that soapbox again. Yeah, everyone's tired of hearing me saying about that. We also loved the idea of a college without dorms, but many of us were schooled afterwards saying it's not so easy in this day and age to say you can't have dorms. You may be forced over time to have dorms. And none of us want South Holmdel to be a college town. Super high density single housing. I think some developers looked at that. That would have obviously a huge impact on our schools. I love the idea of mansions, $4 million, $5 million mansions. I don't think the math works when you take out that building and do that. And finally, South Holmdel does not want another attempt at a sports metropolis with tons of fields and light towers and bubbles and things like that when the leagues and out-of-town people would be there, and there would never be enough parking for things like that. So the CELU people are great people, and I know there are other people complaining. I sure as heck get phone calls all the time saying, why are you not against this? Why? But if you have better ideas for this, realistic ideas, then please bring them forward. And the committee or you or whoever will look at them. If not, I think this is a reasonable plan. And I have some neighbors who are, again, staunch defenders of South Holmdel, huge donators to all these groups over the years, and they're like, it's okay. My big concern, though, broken record, following up with Francine's comment, the water issue. I've talked about this before. People are going to take showers there. There weren't really many showers at Prudential. Some people are going to have soaking tubs. I would guess there weren't many soaking tubs at Prudential. An offset is toilets. I'm sure when Prudential was built, they were 3.5-gallon toilets. Now they're a gallon or less. So there's an offset. That math, we cannot rely on the EPA. We have seen how governments have failed before. We need a true independent professional on our side to really take a look at the math and what that package treatment plant can handle. Because, and I've said this to you, Mayor, directly, and I've heard from a lot of people, believe it or not, in the past 2 weeks, all bets are off. If that facility cannot handle the count there, you will lose so much support for this, and for what it's worth, there will be anarchy in South Holmdel, because we are not going to have a situation where that facility is either not practical, and we don't want this Colt's Neck experimental underground thingamajiggy. We don't want that. And I'm going to say it again. The builder really needs to know that.
Yep.
So.
Understood.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
appreciate that. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Fonda Bruner Colombini, 23 Country Squire Lane. That's also part of the development that will never be able to make a left turn if we get a lot of housing. And I am a realist. I understand we have to do something. So I think senior housing and making it into condos is the best way to go, using the existing building. My concern, apart from, of course, the water and everything else, is the traffic. And I was here when Brookdale was a horrible traffic problem. And that circle that was done was perfect. It really solved the issue. And I think, if I remember correctly, there was a study done, right, before, or somehow, I remembered, and when it was first introduced, people didn't really realize how well it was going to work. So I think if there can be a study and some kind of, I guess, solution to the parking problem and the traffic problem, it'll really help a long way to make it palatable for all the residents who live in South Holmdel.
No, I appreciate that. And a rigorous traffic study will be part of this process, and we'll see what the recommendations come out, and then we'll see what else we can do potentially to alleviate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, sir. Mr. Emma.
Ron Emma, 32 Ladwood Drive. I've asked this question numerous times before. I'm going to ask it again. On the consent agenda, there's a bill payable for 2 more 2024 Chevy Tahoe vehicles for $113,000. Number one, that amount alone, I don't believe should be on a consent agenda. Number two, there's an ordinance for 2 more vehicles for $84,000 and $375,000 for an ambulance. That's $572,000 in new vehicles that you're asking for approval for tonight. My question is this, again, what is the benchmark, the KPI, when a new vehicle is up? Is it mileage? Is it wear and tear? Is it years? I've asked it numerous times, and I don't really think I've gotten any answer, let alone a satisfactory answer. So my question is, why are we always buying these brand new vehicles? Not to mention the DPW equipment, which is state of the art. You go to the large item drop-off and you see these new vehicles, they're pristine. You go to other towns, they have a little bit more wear and tear on them. They're a little bit more longer in the tooth. So my question is, why are we always, it seems to me, purchasing these new vehicles without any discussion on this is why we're buying the new vehicles? So that's kind of where I'm at. Thank you.
Okay. Jay and Bill, and if you guys want to jump in on that, I think the one thing I will.
One other thing is, the third vehicle for the fire department, they already have a Tahoe and a Ford Explorer. I think I've got it right. I might get it wrong, but that would make 3 chiefs vehicles. How many vehicles do we need for the chiefs in the fire department? So that's a further question.
Thank you. So I do want to address, Jay, if we can address the first question on this first and foremost, which is, to Mr. Emmer's point, does this belong on the consent agenda given the amount that was, that's being approved or seeking to be approved? And then we can get into whatever our criteria is for upgrading and improving or replacing vehicles, if you don't mind.
Yeah, your question regarding the consent agenda. First of all, the purchase of any vehicle goes through a number of steps, and we're actually seeing, I guess I would best describe it as the 2 ends of the process tonight. Tonight we have for introduction a capital bond ordinance that starts the process, and that puts the funding in place for, in this case, the purchase of new and/or replacement vehicles. The bill list represents the end of the process, where the vehicles have gone through the budget review, the capital expenditure in the form of an ordinance, where there is a specific and special public hearing for the adoption of an ordinance. And at the end of the process, the vehicle is ordered, purchased, delivered, and it shows up on the bill list for payment. So again, the process is really 3 or 4 steps during what can be anywhere from a 1-year cycle to a 2-year cycle. The fact its presence on a bill list as in a consent agenda, that's really a preference of the governing body. If there are items that the governing body wishes to approve separately, I will tell you that the bill list, again, is really the formality of the purchase has been made. We are now making payment for it. The real question should be asked at the time of the authorization for the purchase, which in this case is at the public hearing on the funding mechanism, which is a bond ordinance.
So that 113,000 has already been approved. So I probably questioned it last year or whenever it was. That's what you're saying.
If I can interject, in addition to what Mr. Delaney said, there's also an approving resolution to the extent a procurement exceeds the bid threshold. So if it's under 44,000, the purchasing agent under the ordinance can potentially award without governing body action. But I recall governing body action earlier this year on vehicles. So the township committee's already voted to purchase these vehicles.
So what you're saying is I already complained about those.
Yes.
I believe that's right. And so this is just cutting the check for it. So I happen to believe that's routine business that typically is on a consent agenda.
So, and Jay, so thank you both for that. And Ron, I took that question serious. So I just want to make sure you got an answer to it. Jay, do we have a, and it's a valid question. I don't know what our criteria is for replacing vehicles. I know we delayed replacing vehicles for a number of years just due to budgetary constraints, et cetera. And so my opinion or my expectation is these have surpassed their useful life, so to speak. But but I don't want to put words in your mouth either. So.
Yeah, and you're correct, Mayor. The criteria that's used and those discussions take place during the budget preparation. Individual departments submit requests. I will tell you that the priority that we take into consideration as part of the staff review is that replacement vehicles are viewed, let me go the other way, new vehicles that represent expansion of our fleet go through a higher and more rigorous review and justification as to the purpose and the cost. Assuming that there is a baseline assumption that the
Mr. Blumenthal, can you just please, we can hear you. We're trying to listen to Jay. Thank you.
There is a presumption that our existing inventory of vehicles, when it comes to replacing an aged vehicle, is viewed a little bit with less scrutiny than expanding the fleet. In this case tonight, for instance, the bond ordinance that will be introduced, the ordinance will be published and the public hearing scheduled for our next meeting of the governing body, at which time public comment will be received. That includes an expansion of our vehicle fleet for the second chief's vehicle. that was initially not part of the original budget presentation, but this is the opportunity where that the capital list has been fine-tuned and does include that second vehicle.
What about the 375,000 for the ambulance? Is that an expansion of the fleet? Because we have 3 ambulances and I believe a rescue truck, and they all are late model vehicles from my site at least.
Yeah, that is not an expansion of the fleet. That is a replacement vehicle. Just checking my notes, I don't have the age and mileage of the vehicle that it's being equipped, or that it is replacing. However, we will have that information available for the public hearing.
Do I have time for one more quick follow-up on that? No? Just real quick. So again, we're spending $575,000 on emergency service vehicles, which is, I'm not going to say it's great, but okay. My original question is, what are we spending? Have we done? Where are we with the study as far as the partially paid or fully paid fire department? At least to do a study. If we have $572,000 for emergency service vehicles, we should have a little money left in the budget to do the study that a lot of people in Holmdel are asking for, me especially, for the study to see if that's viable or not.
So Ron, we'll address that towards the end of the meeting. That part out of the consent agenda is sort of purview.
Thank you.
All right. Whew. Anybody else? All right. Let's move on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve?
Move.
Second.
Mr. Foster?
Yes.
Ms. LaMountain?
Yes.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Romano?
Yes.
Mayor Impreviduto?
Yes.
Okay. Resolutions 2024-185 to 2024-206 have been successfully passed. Thank you.
That's what I do on this, looking for authorization. All right, so moving on to 2024-207. Do we have a motion to approve the resolution authorizing bona fide negotiations for acquisition of Block 4902, lots 40, 40Q, and 41 for open space and recreation purposes?
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Foster?
Yes.
Ms. LaMountain?
Yes.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Romano?
Yes.
Mayor Impreviduto?
Yes.
Okay. Resolution 2024-207 has been successfully passed. Thanks.
Wendy, can I do these two together for Vonage?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So do we have a motion to approve the Vonage action items 2024-208 and 2024-209?
Moved.
Second.
Mr. Foster?
Yes.
Ms. LaMountain?
Yes.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Romano?
Yes.
Mayor Impreviduto?
Yes.
Resolutions 2024-208 and 2024-209 have been successfully passed. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy.
Okay. Next is introduction of ordinance 2024-15, which is an ordinance appropriating $42,000 from capital fund balance for cost and expenses to purchase the listed equipment. Motion is to adopt on first reading, publish in the Asbury Park Press, and set the public hearing for September 10th, 2024.
Do we have a motion to approve?
Move.
Second.
Mr. Foster?
Yes.
Ms. LaMountain?
Yes.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Romano?
Yes.
Mayor Impreviduto?
Yes.
Okay. Ordinance 2024-15 will be set for public hearing. Next for introduction is Bond Ordinance 2024-16, which is an ordinance to authorize the making of various public improvements and the acquisition of new additional or replacement equipment and machinery, new information technology equipment, new communication and signal systems equipment, new additional furnishings, and new automotive vehicles, including original apparatus and equipment in, by, and for the Township of Holmdel in the County of Monmouth, State of New Jersey, to appropriate the sum of $2,932,500 to pay the cost thereof, to make a down payment, to authorize the issuance of bonds to finance such appropriation, and to provide for the issuance of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of such bonds. The motion is to adopt on first reading, publish in the Asbury Park Press, and set the public hearing for September 10th, 2024.
That's a mouthful. Do we have a motion to approve? Thank you.
Second.
Mr. Foster?
Yes.
Ms. LaMountain?
Yes.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Romano?
Yes.
Mayor Impreviduto?
Yes.
Okay. Ordinance 2024-16 will be set for public hearing and for September 10th, 2024. Next is ordinance 2024-17, which is an ordinance authorizing acquisition by eminent domain, block 49.02, lots 40, 40Q, and 41 for open space and recreation purposes. This motion is to adopt on first reading, publish in the Asbury Park Press, and set the public hearing for September 10th, 2024.
A motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Oh, sorry.
Actually, I'm just thinking, I'll clarify, this is being introduced on title. If and when the appropriate time is there for the ordinance to be advanced, we will then submit it for publication, and it'll be duly noticed for a public hearing. Given that it's by title and it's an open-ended process, I'm just going to note that for the record. So it may not be a public hearing on September 10th, but it will be upon the direction of the Township Committee at the appropriate time.
Thank you.
Move.
Second.
Mr. Foster?
Yes.
Ms. LaMountain?
Yes.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Romano?
Yes.
Mayor Pravaduto?
Yes.
Okay. Ordinance 2024-17 has been successfully passed, introduced.
Introduced, yep.
You're doing, okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Wendy. Mr. Administrator?
Thank you, Mayor. Three items. One, I just wanted to report that earlier today I participated in a meeting together with Chief Falaco as well as the staff of the Holmdel Police Department Traffic Safety Bureau with representatives of New Jersey Transit, Monmouth County, as well as Middletown. Regarding the planned replacement or repairs, I guess it's the second phase repairs to the Laurel Avenue New Jersey Transit Railroad Bridge. That also included discussion with the representatives from Monmouth County. As I think you may all be aware, Laurel Avenue is actually a county road, and while the New Jersey Transit is looking at moving forward with the repairs to elevate, I guess, half of the railroad crossing that was not previously repaired as a result of emergency repairs when the trestle was hit by a vehicle. The county is also looking at a longer range plan to expand the width of Laurel Avenue so that it would include 2 travel lanes in each direction. So between the county and New Jersey Transit, they're working out the details. It appears that at this stage that the road widening is a longer-term plan. The county is soliciting federal funds for the design concept as well as ultimately construction, but that is several years out, while the immediate repairs more than likely will take place sometime during the year 2025. And again, it's nothing that's happening immediately, but it is one of those long-term infrastructure projects that has long-term impacts and benefits to the community. Secondly, on a much more local scale, Crawford's Corner Road, in response to a number of questions and complaints regarding the condition of that roadway. Likewise, the township is proceeding on what really is 3 separate phases. Earlier this year, we submitted an application for DOT, New Jersey Department of Transportation funding, to provide for a long-term renovation, widening, and traffic changes to Crawford's Corner Road. That application is pending. In the meantime, the township last year was the recipient of NJDOT grants for just a milling and paving of that roadway. That work is in the pipeline, and we expect that that'll happen next year. The more immediate concern is the road condition, particularly in the area of the schools. The good news is that we have awarded a small contract for milling and paving of the worst areas, and that will commence, we expect, later this week or into next week, so that work will be completed, as well as a restriping of the roadway before the school year.
Thank you.
And then the third, final item, I distributed after discussion the resolution appointing a Public Works Department Director of Infrastructure and Operations, and I would ask that the governing body consider that for adoption this evening.
Okay. Do I have to call out a number? Or? All right, hold on. All right, can we make a motion to approve the new Director of Public Works?
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Foster?
Yes.
Ms.
Yes.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Romano?
Yes.
Mayor Pravaduto?
Yes.
That's going to be 2024-210, and it was successfully passed. Thank you.
And for the record, that is Brian Nagel, a member for quite a long time of our Public Works Department. He's now going to be taking over Victor's spot, and we're very proud of him and happy to provide him that opportunity. Mr. Antonides.
Two items. The taxes are due on Friday, August 23rd by 4:30. They're delayed this year, not through any fault of our own, but because of the state and county, they were delayed. Secondly, we renewed the internal bond anticipation notes. Interest rate this year is 3.82. Last year was 2.79. Again, we issued notes internally based on the interest rate we're currently receiving from the bank, and we're saving all the issuance costs that we have to pay professionals. So, and we made a major pay down, especially in the general capital of $800,000, which was 11.76% of our outstanding notes.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Attorney, Mr.
Well,
Mr. Collins.
Changed it up. I saw your finger going.
Yeah, I went that way, and I looked at the list. I was going the wrong way.
No update, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Earl?
No update, Mayor.
Thank you. Moving on to the committee. Mr. Romano, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, starting with the library, a nice mix of adult and children's programs. July's book club was Hello Stranger. We had 11 patrons attend to discuss the novel. The library is sponsoring a chess club that hosts an average of 30 players per week. The library held 16 Storytime and STEAM, which stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Art, and Math events, with over 374 children in attendance. The themes of these programs were summer-related and also coordinated with the Summer Reading Club. Interest in the Read to a Dog program is growing and will now be offered once a month. On the Board of Ed side, the district has had many students engaging in valuable summer learning opportunities, including 106 students participating in our grant-funded Summer Step-Up program and 48 students participating in our Extended Years program. The high school counseling department hosted its senior college boot camp session on August 1st. Earlier this month, the district hosted the In Spirit AI summer camp at the high school. Our middle and high school students explored artificial intelligence, learning about its origins, machine learning, and natural language processing. The district was fortunate to have instructors from Cornell University and Harvard guiding them. From athletics, the district's athletic teams have been participating in voluntary summer practice sessions in preparation for the upcoming school year. Fall sports, including football, girls tennis, soccer, field hockey, volleyball, cross-country, gymnastics, cheer, and dance will start on August 12th and 19th. The year's first home game will be on Friday, August 30th at 6 p.m., featuring a football game against Long Branch. Kudos to our youngsters and staff for their time and efforts towards continuous improvement. We have some new curriculum. Between July 8th and July 18th, a team of 14 literacy teachers collaborated in a symposium forum to write a new curriculum aligned with the new English NJSLA learning standards. This intensive collaboration resulted in a comprehensive and forward-thinking curriculum designed to meet the evolving needs of our students. In addition, 14 math teachers from grades K through pre-calculus gathered on July 8th through the 11th to begin rewriting the mathematics curricula in alignment with the 2023 math standards. The Board of Education will hold its Public Committee of the Whole meeting on August 21st and Public Action meeting on August 28th. The district is on target to welcome back staff on September 3rd and all students on September 4th. From the Holmdel Heritage Committee, the Holmdel Heritage Day will take place on Sunday, December 8th from 2 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. at Holmdel High School. To understand better with the spaces and area and running the Holmdel Heritage Day at Holmdel High School, Superintendent of Schools Dr. Cascone and Acting Principal Mr. McCauley kindly provided a site tour to our group last Thursday, August 8th. Heritage Committee continues recruiting volunteers for the Holmdel Heritage Day. Any Holmdel residents who are interested in helping or offering a sponsorship for this multicultural celebration event, please contact Holmdel Heritage Committee at holmdelheritage@gmail.com.
Thank you, Joe. Ms. LaMountain?
Thank you, Mayor. The Community Development Department is excited to welcome aboard Courtney Lopez, who has been appointed as the new Holmdel Township Zoning Officer. And they also wish well to Arthur Revel, one of the fire prevention specialists who retired last week. The Holmdel Green Team, they attended a kickoff meeting to discuss the update of the township's environmental resources inventory the committee continues to, or the green team continues to gather information about electronic vehicles and charging stations. And they've also been communicating with several residents who have approached the township with different suggestions. Their next meeting is September 9th. Members of the public are invited to attend, and if you can't attend, you are also welcome to email your feedback or questions to greenteam@holmdeltownship.com. Thank you, folks.
Thank you, Kim. Mr. Lucarelli.
Thank you, Mayor. From the Holmdel Police Department, they have they have launched a new home inspection program. This is a crime prevention initiative designed to enhance the safety and security of our Holmdel residents. This is a free service provided by the police department. The department's state certified officers will conduct a thorough inspection of your home, evaluate potential vulnerabilities, and make recommendations to provide advice on how to improve your home security. To participate, send an email to homeinspections@holmdelpolice.org. Just give them your name, address, and a callback number, and they will reach out to you. I definitely encourage people to take advantage of that. A total of 60 recruits graduated from the Holmdel Police Youth Academy 2 weeks ago. The program introduces Holmdel's youth to police work through hands-on experiences with officers. Thank you for all the participants and officers, and also thank you to the Holmdel First Aid Squad and fire departments for their presentations to their recruits. Holmdel First Aid Squad, again, they participated in the Police Youth Academy during both weeks. They look forward to additional community events scheduled for the remainder of the summer, which includes the Hero Day at the Swim Club. The cadet program, they're now accepting applications for the 24-25 year of the cadet class. An interesting meeting will be held the first week of September. Any interested rising junior or seniors in Holmdel High School, they are invited to attend. More information will be shared on their social media page. The Holmdel First Aid Squad will be offering CPR classes as well as basic life support classes to residents of Holmdel inside the new training room. We have several members attend the instructor course to gain the ability to facilitate this program, and we are excited to get it up and running. And the Public Works, the next 2 Saturdays, the next 2 Saturdays for the large item drop-off is going to be September 14th and September 28th. 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Bell Works, and the brush collection will begin for Section A the week of September 2nd. Please refer to your brush leaf schedule card that was mailed out when your section will be picked up. And that's all I have for you, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, DJ. Deputy Mayor?
Oh, what was that? It's inspections. I'm sorry, home inspections with an S at holmdelpolice.org. You're welcome.
DJ, do you want to answer his question?
Yes,
earlier?
I wanted to congratulate Brian Nagel. We're all very proud of him to get that position. And then I'll make a comment while I'm up. Ron, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was here, or maybe 3 weeks ago. We formally requested that Dave D'Arcy, the training officer, and Chief Fernando come up with recommendations. It's not an official report, but they are looking into it. They have been communicating with other towns, with other chiefs, and they are going to compile what they think would be best for Holmdel, some options for us to look at, and then present to the public. Okay, so that's where we're at with it. They are working on it. Yes, yes.
Thanks, DJ. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of brief updates from the Department of Recreation. The summer recreation program finished up its 6-week program on Friday, August 2nd. Each week, the campers enjoyed special events, activities, and fun things going on. We would like to thank all of those who participated and to our staff who did a fantastic job this summer. The Holmdel Hurricanes swim team completed its 5th consecutive undefeated season and captured the Monmouth County Swim Conference Championship. Congratulations to Coach Sean McGrath, all the assistant coaches, and all the swimmers for a great season. The Holmdel Hurricanes dive team finished 3rd in the New Jersey Swimming and Diving Conference for the 2nd consecutive year. Congratulations to Coach Greg Roth and all the divers. Closing day for the swim club is Monday, September 2nd. Members and guests have been enjoying the great weather this summer, except, of course, last week. That was a little tough. And look forward to a great last 2.5 weeks of the season. And just a couple of events. Save the date for the father-daughter campout scheduled for Friday, September 20th at Bayonet Farms. If you haven't been, it's a great night. The girls run around, have a great time. There's usually some singing going on, music, food, drinks, fantastic evening. More information will be available soon on this popular event. Registration is also open for the annual Bayonet Trail Farm Race. There are 2 races, a 1-mile kids race and a 4-mile main race, which goes through the paths and stuff throughout all the property back there. More information and registration can be found at the Holmdel Rec Desk registration page. And then just a couple of things I want to mention. Myself and DJ, and actually Kim's husband Scott, played yesterday in the Holmdel PBA outing. Congratulations to Rocco Quagley and Pat Weeker, who ran another excellent outing over at Beacon Hill Country Club. DJ, I think that home inspection program is great. Saw the email on that. Hopefully a lot of people in town take advantage of that. It's an awesome resource that the chief and his staff came up with, which is great. The CPR training as well. I spoke to Chief Trechette about that earlier today. Sorry, Pat. That's how he always pronounced his name the 7 years I rode with him. So I'm looking to get my 3 at least older kids involved in that. He mentioned that, a lot of kids can get involved. They may not exactly pass the certifications, but they welcome them to come down, especially in the new facility, and get training and just kind of have an understanding of what's going on. And I also like to say congratulations to Brian Nagel. We have an outstanding DPW team. We're certainly going to miss Victor, as I mentioned, but Brian is really all about this town and some hard work, and the guys around him. Looking forward to that. So congratulations again. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Brian. All right. The new turf field lighting project at Sat School has been completed. The lights are now fully operational. We are pleased to have partnered with the school district and the user groups to get those up and running. The township has been meeting with our architect, Anthony Iavino, to begin planning for the preservation of the historic Holmdel Horn antenna. Mr. Iavino toured the Crawford Hill site, and his team will be guiding the township through the process of working with the New Jersey Historic Preservation Office as we develop plans for the future Robert Wilson Park. Township representatives, Mr. Iavino, the architect, and Dr. Wilson will be meeting with the state in September to get the process rolling. Town Hall offices and the recycling center will be closed on Monday, September 2nd in observance of Labor Day. Please plan accordingly. On September 11th, the Township Recreation Department will set up flowers, candles, and American flags at the Open Hands Monument in front of Town Hall so that residents can come pay their respects to those who perished on September 11th, 2001. We are also nearing the finish line with the new pickleball and basketball courts at the Holmdel Swim Club. In the meantime, I ask residents to please refrain from using the courts as we complete the final touches. There will be an announcement on the website and a ribbon cutting, et cetera, when these things are ready to roll. We're also going to have a reservation system for residents to register their slots for the courts and keep it to Holmdel residents. And on one final note, before we get to public comment, I want to thank Detective Eric Hernando for 30 years of service to Holmdel. He is recently now retired. We wish him the best in his retirement. He'll remain as fire chief. But Eric is a hometown guy, and I refer to him often as a hometown hero, and we thank him for his service and wish him the best in his retirement from the police department. So with all that said, we'll move on to public comment. If Wendy, you want to do the voodoo you do so well.
In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, this is a public comment period for public comment on any governmental issue of public concern. In accordance with Resolution 2022-17, public commenters are asked to raise their hand and wait to be recognized by the mayor before coming forward and making public comments. Commenters are asked to state their full name and address before commenting. Public commenters are limited to one comment, not to exceed 3 minutes. Comments should be directed to the mayor and the township committee If appropriate, the mayor may direct and recognize a staff or employee or professional to respond to comments either at this meeting or in writing after this meeting.
Thank you, Wendy. You have any folks? Let's get some new blood in the back, and then you, young lady.
Hello, Angela Costello, 10 Realtor Way. So my comment relates to actually the topic that our administrator had brought up on Laurel Avenue. So the area on Laurel that would love to bring to your attention is the corner of Laurel Avenue and Holland Road, right before it turns into Van Schoik. We have a merge over there that usually causes some bottleneck, and with the bottleneck, tends to be a lot of accidents. I'm sure you'll see the mailbox that on the resident who lives on that corner. It's knocked over now, and it unfortunately hasn't been the first time that her mailbox has been knocked over. So I guess while I understand this is going to be a long-term project where they focus on the more southern end of Laurel Avenue, if maybe just a suggestion, a possibility, if we can maybe discuss turning, so right on Laurel Ave, right before you cross over onto Holland Road, it's already 2 lanes in that area, so maybe if we can turn the one furthest to the left, if you're looking across Holland Road, if we turn that one into maybe a turn-only lane, so this way we only have 1 lane going straight to avoid that bottleneck and hopefully resolve some accidents. It has been, I used to actually live off Van Schoik on Williams Way, and it used so many fatal accidents. There's been shrines there. It's been terrible over the years, so hopefully maybe we could try to avoid that. I know it's a county road, so it's not something that we can resolve just in this room, but since those discussions I know you mentioned on that road specifically are already taking place, maybe we can just add it, see if we can come up with the county of a possible resolution.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Regina Groisberg, 3 Grandview Drive. I have the same topic, sort of, on a different street. Shank Road and Holmdel Road. Oops, sorry. It is the scariest turn. There's a lot of blind sides there, and it needs something. It goes up over a hill. Everybody speeds down Holmdel Road. They don't see us turning off Shank Road. We don't see them. And I don't know what the solution is because that is not my forte, but somebody does. So if we could address that, somebody could take a look at that. It's extremely dangerous. I'm always like, I say a little prayer just before I turn, because even if I don't see it, they come out of nowhere. No matter, the only time it's safe is at night because then I could see them coming. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name's Kathy English. I live in Eatontown, so I have to say I'm very impressed with Holmdel, but I also have huge roots here. I am from the Cross family. My aunt married Thierkoff, which is Ladwood. My great uncle's house is on Long Bridge Road. I come and visit every couple of months. I was here a couple months ago. Sent some pictures to cousins in Delaware. My daughter was like, "Oh my God, they're going to arrest us." I'm like, "Don't worry. I know a lot of people." Anyway, it's just, I don't know. It's getting worse. I was told last year that a woman's group was going to take over it and teach, and no, that was you. Okay. The Cross family was about family. They were about kids. They would be thrilled with all of this. Their blood is in the soil. My mother grew up across on the property of the Exxon in that house, which my grandfather knocked down with a bulldozer. Anyway, that is one of the last houses of the Cross family. So my mother's wedding was there in 1959, August. I have a picture of my great uncle in the house. So I would like to see it be something, teach kids, you know, something with the recreation. You guys own it. It needs a lot of work. I do know from doing on Ancestry, the Schmock Cemetery, that was their house, a little part of it. And then the next family, and then the Crosses, and then the Cross brothers had one road. So I'm part of Gideon Daly too. So I do have pictures if you want. I gave some pictures last year. I don't know where they went, but I can give you some pictures. So family and kids.
Thank
So,
you.
Thank you, everybody, for loving Holmdel as much as my ancestors did.
Thank you very much.
Jay Yanello, 18 Ladwood Drive. I have a suggestion and request, and DJ, this may come your way. Over the past years, and actually in the past month, I've seen hazards in town that remain hazards for weeks. And I'm like, why is it my job as pain in the butt Jay to report these things to the town and to the DPW or to the police department? We have an incredible DPW, as you said. We have an incredible police department. But I'm requesting DJ or Rocco, Mayor, or the TC, I implore you to go to the heads of these departments and say, guys, I know you have bigger things to worry about, trees that fall or cars being hijacked or crime, but if you see a hazard, please report it. Maybe we incentivize them to report it. Just a couple of quick examples. A hanging branch on Middletown Road was there for 3 weeks. A pretty big branch where if you have a top back and a kid's in there and death. Why do I have to report that 3 weeks later? 3 weeks it hung there. You could see this thing. Pulling in. It's a good, because you know what? I literally wanted to see, because this has happened for years. Let me give you another quick example. It's a great point, though. When you pull in the Marshall's parking lot, there were some really bad potholes there where people were starting to try to negotiate, and it could cause an accident or if someone's walking there. They were there for months. Yeah, as you pull in the Marshall's lot, you go down Laurel, you get on 35, you make a right in. There were some meaningful potholes there. I watched those potholes for months. How many times did the facility there, Holmdel Commons, whatever it is, how many times did township employees pull in? Why do I have to call that? And I did call it, and it might have been Brian Nagel. It was a few weeks ago, and they paved that sucker right out. But again, these are great employees. They have bigger things to worry about, but they should see these things and report these things. And maybe we create some sort of incentive system, $25 gift cards, I don't know, whatever the answer is. These things should be covered by township employees. Obviously, residents are going to catch random things, but if things are around 3 weeks, months, residents shouldn't have to report it. The other thing is about the vehicles. People joke, I keep vehicles 10 to 15 years. My dad's taught me that. You really get the cash cow flows in the latter years if you don't need transmissions. I've heard from several business owners over the past 7 years about they're in awe at the pace at which we upgrade vehicles, the nature of the vehicles. Why aren't we repairing vehicles? Again, our people deserve quality vehicles, but we have some really good vehicles. Do we need F-350s? They're expensive. Can some of them be F-150s? But more importantly, because of Mr. Emma's question, we argue a lot, we're friends, but we argue a lot. I think he's right on point. I think if we're replacing a vehicle, there should be a spreadsheet. Maybe there is, but I haven't seen it. This vehicle's this year, this old, these are the miles on it, and we're replacing it with this vehicle. Do we have that? If we do, I apologize. We do, and you see that. So what is the average replacement year on a F-350?
Yeah, I don't know the average. I've seen the spreadsheet because we looked at it. We're going over the budget and everything before. I mean, Jay, I don't know if you guys know the average offhand, but I remember seeing them, north of 20 years on a bunch of these.
F-350?
On certain vehicles. I'm not saying the F-350.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think listen, inflation, taxes, you're doing your best to keep things flat. I think please detail to us these vehicle replacements. I think, we'd love to know.
Yeah. So my only comment would be, Jay, is that, and I think I said this last time Ron brought it up, I don't know if it was last year or this year, I can't remember, there will be, well, there has been already more scrutiny on DPW, on their vehicle, how often they need them, and there wasn't, unfortunately, going back. I think they were just filling, there was X amount of budget, they had money, and they
Yeah.
would spend it.
Yeah.
So there has been more scrutiny on it. When it comes to the police department, that's just a whole other standard there, and there are spreadsheets. Every vehicle is documented when we go down and do the budgetary stuff. But especially, I'm just again for the police department. The chief and the captain, they recommend to the administrator what they're looking for. This year, I was the liaison, so I sat in on that. So I'm just speaking about this year, and it is kind of scrutinized. You do go through, and they explain to you, what their needs are and what their requests are, and we push back, and it's like kind of a negotiation because everything is expensive, and they understand that. But when it comes to the police department, there's definitely a different standard there when it comes to mileages and the years of the.
Just for
how
the
old
record,
they
I
are.
wasn't questioning the
Yeah,
police
but
cars.
again, when it
Yeah,
comes
it
to
was
DPW,
more the DPW side.
I get
Yeah.
it, and I don't think there has been a purchase of an F-350 or new pickups in the last year or two. So there should be a little more scrutiny there. We want them to have quality equipment and to be able to do their job and be comfortable and look professional in town. But there also has to be, I think, moving forward for some time now, there has to be a little bit more scrutiny on, is this really necessary? Do we really need this? And if so, just explain why, and it has to be logical and make sense. So I think we're all, we're definitely in agreement with that, and nothing's changed since I think we had that conversation, again, I don't know if it was last year or earlier this year, but.
It all blends together.
Yeah, I know. But that is kind of like a new practice here. I don't want to say new practice, but it's been a continuing practice.
An evolving practice.
Yeah, an evolving practice.
Yeah.
Okay. And just to reiterate, if you could suggest or possibly incentivize these two major groups that are on our roads all day long, guys, report this stuff. I think it would help decrease our risk profile as a population. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Patrick Triscuta, 56 Line Road. Just want to reiterate, there's some questions about first aid vehicles. Okay, $471,000. The Holmdel First Aid is an all-volunteer organization, and they have constantly upgraded what can be done on a first aid call, and the residents of Holmdel get the benefits of that. So most of the $471,000 for a new ambulance goes to modernized equipment, like automatic defibrillators, automatic CPR, chair lifts, so that it doesn't have to be lifted. So these are the things, wireless communications to a hospital. So all of these things add to the cost, but I think it's the immediate benefit. The first aid squad takes a lot of calls per day and needs 4 units that are completely upgraded and upstaffed. So at first it may sound like it's sticker shock when you see something like that, but realize what the town is getting for that money. Okay,
Thank
and
you.
all volunteer. Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Janet Jackal, 31 Stony Brook Road. Holmdel has a noise ordinance. It doesn't seem to be enforced.